Yeah, we're just about ready. Let me get a couple things here real quick. Make sure that we are over there on our page. I want to make sure we're up and going.
Folks at home, Craig Bell and Dave the Brain, our producer, are getting everything ready.
Hard at work.
So we sound like hard at work.
There we are.
And what are they doing? Oh, there we are live on Facebook.
Yep.
Everybody, warm welcome. Take it away, Craig Bell.
All right, James Scott Campbell, let's get this podcast going.
Friends, to another episode of the At the Net podcast, powered by Tex-Mex Productions. Working the soundboards in the back of the house are our producers, D-Mac and Dave the Brain. Time to say hello to your hosts, Craig Bell and AJ Shabria, as they're about to take us through 3 sets of tennis, talking life and all the news as it seems to them. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Bell.
All right, thanks to our At the Net podcast girl, Margot Carter, for that Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame is the word of the night.
That was a Hall of Fame introduction.
That was great.
And welcome, fans of the great game. You're listening to Season 1, Episode 111. 111. 111. A lot of ones. Season 1 and 111 this evening of At the Net podcast with, on my left, I can't believe I already had one mix-up right there, one screw-up. AJ Chabria, right? You're AJ Chabria, right?
Yes, sir. And to my right, as always, Craig Bell, the man we call CB1.
And we are talking the great game of tennis this evening, as it seems to us. Thanks also go out to our good amigos at Tex-Mex Productions, one Darian D. McBrayer. And we did have a brain sighting tonight. Dave the Brain. He was there from Hagerstown, Maryland, I believe.
Love him.
Yep, he was on the phone right there talking to me on Facebook Messenger. And he was back at the house on, well, he really wasn't the soundboards. Yeah, we've got the soundboards right here.
You're producing this, yeah.
Kind of doing that. I'm moving the dials and buttons to make us look like real people, not holograms, right?
That's right.
We're not holograms, or we're live, right?
We are live, and so is our guest. I can't wait.
Also, be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, plus check out our good work on Deep Breath, Fireside, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Spotify. I did it again.
Love
all
it.
in one breath. Basically, that's all the important communication sites the kids find popular today, right?
Yeah, and I like it because you're communicating, but also your lungs are solid if you can do all 10 of those.
Oh, man, yeah, I'm glad to be back on that.
There's no COVID in this house, baby.
There's no COVID. That's right. And there's no pneumonia either. So, about 9 months ago, I probably couldn't have done that.
That's right.
And if you're female, sorry, guys, would like to read the opening intro for At the Net podcast and being at the podcast girl like the Hall of Fame, Margot Carter, hit us up on some digits. It's going to be hard to knock her from the platform because she does do a great opening intro, doesn't she?
Do hit us up, DM us. We'll have her look at your demo tape, and we'll figure it all out.
That's right. Yeah. Well, speaking of Hall of Fame guests, this evening is certainly a Hall of Famer, newly minted Hall of Famer from the Texas Tennis Hall of Fame down in Waco, Texas. That would be one Wayne Leavitt. Wayne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good evening. Look forward to it.
Good evening, Wayne. So happy to have you. I was just reflecting how proud I am. We saw you at a party over Christmas, and I'm so happy Craig booked you for the show, and it's just a real honor to have you on the program tonight. So thank you. We'll be going through 3 sets tonight, a little background on the man, and then we'll talk about projects and some things currently and in the future that he sees. And then we'll let the hair down and have some fun with the pop culture segment that CV runs at the very end. So, Wayne, you've got to tell us. This is an amazing story. How you went from being an athlete to an athlete in a wheelchair, and how you got from wheelchair, other sports, and into tennis, and then maybe you can take us through that journey, and then we can talk about becoming such a Hall of Famer and a coach and a captain of the United States Paralympic team in Atlanta, Georgia in 1996. Wayne, tell us how'd you get started?
Okay, I guess I could tell you I fell into it. That's a kind of a joke because when I was 20 years old, this is way back in 1968.
Wow.
In fact, I already had my orders to report I was going to go on the Army Security Division within 10 days. And I was in the backyard up on my dad's ham radio antenna. We were working on it up 30 feet, and I got electrocuted, thrown off a tower, and landed on my back, crushed my spine. I always tell people if the fall wasn't the problem, it was that sudden stop at the bottom that did all the damage.
It's that part.
Yeah. But anyway, even before that, I mean, up through even SMU, I was all my life, I competed in sports. In fact, my major in college was secondary education. I wanted to be a coach. So I was very interested in all types of sports. I mean, I played baseball, basketball, track, volleyball, cross country, you name it, just all the things. And so then in 1968, after, I realized that I was going to be in a wheelchair, being competitive, I took it as a challenge. I said, okay, I'm going to be the best damn person in a wheelchair that I can be. And so first couple of years, it was kind of just getting into the mental aspect, getting over the disability part of it. And then in 1971, guys got together. It was on the radio, and we heard it about starting a basketball team, wheelchair basketball team. So basically a bunch of guys in Dallas started a team, and we traveled around the country. We were sponsored actually by the Dallas Mavericks Foundation.
Nice. Yeah.
So they sponsored us. So we traveled around the country, played competitive and everything. And that lasted for years and years. In fact, from 71, it was probably about 30 years I kept playing in the winter season. But in 1981, a gentleman by the name of Randy Snow, who was also in the Hall of Fame, he has unfortunately passed away years ago, but he was a true athlete. I mean, he has records to this day that have never been touched or broken. But he started in Dallas because he was from the Dallas area. And so he got us together, about 5 or 6 of us, and said, hey, let's start, learning wheelchair tennis. And so it was kind of one of those sports I fell in love with. It was funny. Up before I got hurt, I maybe went out on the court and hit tennis twice. That was it.
That's all.
But growing up in the YMCA, I played competitive table tennis.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, it's just the same game, just enlarged on a bigger court. So, I mean, I understand the rules and stuff like that. And so that was the easy part. It was just learning how to handle a wheelchair and how to keep the racket in your hand and how to do all that. Well, Randy was a great guy. Besides a great player, he was a great teacher. And in fact, he wrote a book, he and his coach and everything, and he taught so many camps. And of course, I fell in love with it right away. So anytime there was a camp, I would volunteer. Hey, I'll go with you. We went throughout Texas, around the country. And in fact, I have either played or done exhibitions or tennis camps in 26 states in the United States.
Wow.
So I got to do a lot of traveling. But anyway, so it was, again, okay, this is my thing. So again, being in the mode of wanting to coach, not only playing, and that's the thing I really fell in love with the sport, because technically if you're out there in singles, you're your own coach on the court. So you got to analyze, hey, what am I doing good? What am I doing bad? What's my opponent doing good or bad? How can I use my strengths against his weaknesses? So all that's going through your head while you're playing. And even to this day, a lot of my friends said, Wayne, you didn't have the most athletic because of your disability and everything, but you got the most out of your talent because you use your brain more than you did your strokes. And so that was the thing. And even to this day, I just love working with people and teaching them strategies, teaching them how to be prepared for a match. I mean, it's just that's the fun part, the fight, the preparing and doing that. But then also when you come back from a tournament or you lose a match, how you sit down and you analyze, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do bad? How can I improve? Yeah. So it's always a way of trying to find the way how to get better. So, again, the biggest thing is the mental part of the game. I love it. And so it's really great having a team. And I want to thank my tennis coach, Bill Hammond, in the Dallas area. He was the one that nominated me for the award. Of course, it was 2 years ago during COVID, and they kind of got put on the back burner for a year. But hey, what's 1 year? No big deal. Right. So anyway, at one time we had like 30 people in wheelchairs in the Dallas area. We had a Dallas team. We actually took the team to California because every year in California, they would have our U.S. Open, just like in New York, the able-body U.S. Open. Well, California was the wheelchair tennis U.S. Open. and it was the biggest tournament in the United States every year. It was out in California. It started out in Irvine and then moved to San Diego. And now it's been in other states, St. Louis and some other places like that. But, we took teams out there, and I know in the middle of 80s, 84, 5, and 6, our Dallas team won the team title across the whole United States and the world, because every year at the U.S. Open, there was at least 20 countries represented. There was about 300 total players. And so you couldn't just go out just to want to go out and play. You actually had to have skins on the wall. You actually had to have, some championships in order to qualify. And again, we took teams out there, and it was a pretty good honor that we won the team title 3 years in a row under Bill Hammett, his teaching. And so that was kind of an honor right there.
Tremendous.
So it's pretty good. So we kind of put Dallas on the map as far as tennis.
Wayne, Craig and I grew up in the 70s and very early 80s as tennis players, and I remember being so amazed at how, first of all, I hadn't seen wheelchair tennis as a young kid, and then in about the 80s at the U.S. Open is where I first heard of it. Am I correct in saying it was right before the U.S. Open, or was it right after at Flushing Meadow?
I think it was right after. Now it's kind of during, they use more courts and everything. Yeah. But it was right after that. Brad Parks, who we call the grandfather of wheelchair tennis. Yes. He started wheelchair tennis back in around 1980 in California, Southern Cal. And he got Randy Snow involved, and the rest was history, between the two.
Yeah. I remember playing in juniors the Arthur Ashe tournament, which was a little bit before the U.S. Open, and that's where I first saw wheelchair tennis. Tell the folks at home what some of the rules are that are slightly different for wheelchair tennis, like 2 bounces, and maybe you can talk about wheelchair basketball as well. I want people to kind of get a context of how similar and how different it might be.
Well, believe it or not, that is the only rule is difference between wheelchair tennis and rule. I think it's 2 bounces.
That's it.
We can take the ball in the air with a volley. Right. We can do it on 1 bounce. We can do it on 2 bounces. But other than that, everything else is the same. What really amazes people when they say, well, what kind of court? The court's the same, the net's the same, the rackets are the same, the balls are the same. I mean, it's just you get a second bounce, because usually we play so much deeper, because since we're sitting so low, our at the net is really at the service line, because you come up any sooner, you're just too easy to lob. So you stay back deep and try to keep everything in front of you. And so, that's part of the strategy of the game. So, other than the 2 bounce, in fact, for years, our magazine was called 2 Bounce News.
2 Bounce News.
Yeah, and that was from the National Wheelchair Tennis Foundation, which was in Southern California. Brad Parks and them started that, way back in the beginning, around in the 81, 82 time. And so that started that. But it's really amazing how, and like any athlete, you want some type of competitive edge. Obviously with rackets, you all know, every year seems like they come out with new type of rackets and different materials used and all this stuff, from wooden to carbon fiber, you name it, all the way up the ladder. Well, the same thing was in the wheelchairs, because that was our legs, our mobility. And it started out, the first chairs were cold rolled steel, and then aircraft aluminum, and then titanium, and then carbon fiber. So, they kept getting lighter, but they kept getting more and more expensive. Because the biggest problem is, unless you were good and sponsored, it was very expensive. An average tennis chair is $3,000, and so that's a very expensive pair of tennis shoes.
Yeah.
And most insurances will only buy you your everyday able-bodied chair. So most of the time, if you want a good sports chair, you paid it out of pocket, or you got a sponsorship.
Wow, Wayne, it must be a huge advantage to have a lighter, better chair, and I know the wheels go this way, right?
They're cambered out, and they did studies on that. They started out at 12 degrees, and then it went to 16 degrees. 20 degrees is the maximum camber, because if you get it more than that, it almost creates a camber issue as far as toe in, toe out, and creates a problem. But the main reason that the wheels are cambered is tennis is a lot of turning. And see, if your wheels were straight up and you tried to turn, you'd flip over sideways. So by having the wheels cambered, you barely grab a wheel and it'll kind of spin you around. Plus, it brings the top of the wheels up underneath your shoulders, which is where your strength is to push the chair. So it's for those two issues. But the camber, when they finally resolved on 20 degrees of camber, then that was the optimal camber in the chair to really get the max out of turning. Because again, it's push, turn. You know, you're always back and forth all over the court. It's not like you're running in a straight line. So they do that. Plus, the tennis chairs have evolved not only with the materials, but also they actually, at one time, they actually had what we called three-wheelers. They had your two wheels in the back and a single wheel in the front.
That little one, right?
And it's a little 3-inch wheel that they used on rollerblades. Because believe it or not, those things, especially when the tennis court being flat and smooth and everything, they could go really fast. They wouldn't vibrate, which would slow you down. So you didn't have that problem. Right. And so, again, it's where they developed that was from the roller skate industry. Yeah. And then and everything from the wheelchair actually came from the bicycle industry. You know, the bicycles, you know, as far as they try to find certain tires. I mean, we use different tires. The first pneumatic tires were 65 PSI. Up to now, our tires can go up to 145 PSI.
Boy, that's like more than road bikes.
Yeah, 145.
Yeah. If you have a blowout, you think somebody took a shotgun at you or something, because it could happen. But yeah, so not only it was the configuration of the chair, the materials of the chair, the wheels, the casters, everything came into play to maximize your mobility. Because, you know, it's like any sport. I mean, if you're fast, you're going to, even if you're on your feet, you get to a lot of balls. And then we learn our strokes. So one of the biggest issues in wheelchair tennis is, what's your mobility like? How can you get to the ball and cover the court? And I'm talking singles now. Doubles is a little bit easier when you have a partner, but in singles, you got to cover that whole court. And so there's a lot of pushing and a lot of maneuverability from that standpoint. You asked about.
Oh, yeah. And I wanted you to answer also about basketball, if there are any.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. As far as basketball, basketball actually has been in the U.S. since the World War II. I mean, guys back in the late 40s were playing basketball. I think started out in Chicago, I believe, and then New York. The Eastern Paralyzed Veterans of America had a team in New York, and it just kept blossoming. Like I say, there was teams all over. When we started in Dallas in 71, there was teams all over across the country. And it just kept getting more and more. And then, of course, unfortunately, every time we have a war, veterans come back from the war, and single amps, double amputees, paraplegics, you name it. It almost, increased the amount of players available to play. And basketball it's really more physical than even tennis.
It is, huh?
Well, because you got 5 guys out there and you're pushing and you're picking and running into each other's chairs, and you got the court and you're back and forth and up and down. And it was a very fast, very physical sport. I mean, it was pretty tough. After about 30 some years, I quit. My shoulders were giving out on me. It was just from the pushing. From all the pushing. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we go to a tournament and it'd be a 4-day tournament, and we'd play 2 to 3 because it costs so much to travel. Yeah. I mean, we'd get there and there'd be 8, 10, 12 teams. And so we'd play like three games every day. 3 a day.
I was going to say 2, 3 a day.
So by Sunday, I mean, most of us on the way back, we're all sleeping on the flights. Right. I'll tell you.
You're
puckered out, and it was just, it's wear and tear, but it was great. It was great, for, to get out all those competitive juices and everything. Right. And plus, basketball was it's 5 guys with a strategy, and they did the same thing like the colleges. There was a championships all over the country feeding into a Final Four. And they used to, in fact, in Dallas, we had the Final Four in Dallas one year. God, I can't remember what year it was. The late 80s, I think. And it was held up at the I can't even think of the name of that facility right now, off of Spring Valley, up there near Spring Valley and Marsh Lane. And it's got a big swimming pool up there.
Is that Lowe's? Lowe's, yeah,
it is. Lowe's.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where the Dallas held the the Final Four in Dallas one year in the mid-'80s.
Unbelievable. And while we're talking, you mentioned movement and then equipment, or movement and then striking the ball. Let's shift back to tennis for a moment. And in tennis, we'll maybe use that grip for the forehand, then that grip for the backhand. I'm noticing the beautiful movement, almost like a figure eight in wheelchair singles. But it seems like you guys use this side for the forehand and the backhand. Is that true?
Right, yeah, because since you got to hold the racket in your hand and you're still trying to grab the hand rim and push the chair, it's harder to push and flip and do all that stuff.
Right.
So some of the guys, in fact, started in California, by a gentleman by the name of Jim Black. He's the one that started. He had his forehand on the same side, used the same strength, just moved it over here and just came up over that way.
Right.
And he could really rip, get to the point where some of the guys, in fact, there's a gentleman that played for years and years in the Dallas area, Stephen Welsh. He could rip his backhand with more topspin than his forehand.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just by changing the racket over, you're using the same side of the rackets. It's just you're turning it over without flipping it into your hand.
So we just got to talk about movement and now how to hit. Tell us about the equipment. Do you guys use a exactly standard size racket, or do some people go with the longer? And any differences in strings? We know the ball's the same.
You can't go any longer because of the rules.
Yeah, the rule.
I think the rule says the racket can only be so long.
I think it's 29 is the top of the top.
33.
Used to be 33, and then they went 29.
Yeah, at one time, there was 1 year we used a racket, and of course, for all these years, I was sponsored by Prince.
Yeah.
And Prince came a racket, I can't think of it. It came down, and it was just a single shaft.
The mono or ripstick?
Well, I met Wayne. He doesn't remember this probably, but I was the Prince rep for the Mach 1000.
Mach 1000.
Yeah, and it was a little bit longer. At that time, you could have it, I think, 31, which I liked because it helped me reach for balls I couldn't get to.
Right, far away.
The problem is when a ball was right at you, it was hard because you had to hold your elbow out farther to get the racket in front of you because the racket was longer. Yeah. So it had an advantage one way, but a little disadvantage the other way.
On the tight, close balls, because that's 4 inches longer than the 27 that we normally use.
Yeah. But now it's 29 or 29 and a half. I can't remember. Whatever the rule is. That's the rule. And, of course, a lot of guys experiment with string. Yep. As you well know, they're using the synthetic or they're using the
polyester.
Sometimes, it's getting so technical. Your horizontal strings are one type and your lateral strings are another type, and it's like
that's what I do. I do the same, and I love that.
The only thing I noticed, I use the 17 gauge. I like a little thinner than the 16, just because it helped bite the ball better. Is because I usually I was a Jimmy Connors hitting a flat ball. I didn't use much topspin at all, but that little thinner string gave me a little bit of bite into the ball. And then I noticed over the years when we would travel, we ended up playing in Denver and Albuquerque.
Up in altitude.
In high altitude. So I got to learn before I went to those tournaments, I'd have my rackets all restrung about 2 or 3 pounds tighter just because of the lack of, with the altitude, the ball would fly farther.
Yeah. So
we tightened our strings up a little bit. Again, just little strategy things that make up a little bit of difference.
Smart stuff. Smart. I want to shift from equipment now to coaching. You waxed glowingly about how great a coach Bill was, Hammett, and Randy Snow. What made them such huge influences as coaches in your tennis?
Well, they took the game and they really looked at the whole thing as from a strategy standpoint, and Randy really ended up doing drills, different drills which would make us all better players. The chair maneuverability, the strokes, the thing, as far as what drills to do to work on certain things to get that muscle memory as far as your forehand, your backhand, whatever. People in chairs are similar to able-bodied people. Their backhand's always their weakest shot. It's like go to their backhand, stay away from the forehand.
Right.
And so, it was stuff like that to think about. What's the strategy when you're getting ready to play a player? So it was a combination. Again, the drills, the maneuverability, the strokes, when to use power, when not to use power. I mean, again, tennis is just so much to incorporate. I mean, I've had, I don't know how many people, actually tennis coaches, work with me and stuff like that in the beginning years and stuff like that. And there were some great drills out there that work, like the green light, yellow light, red light, as far as you get ready to hit a shot.
Yeah.
Is it offensive shot, a defensive shot, a neutral shot? So all this stuff that was embedded into me, I just kind of kept it in a file back there between my ears. And again, anything to make a person better. And the same thing, like when you guys have, you might have 5 players and they're all different. They might be tall, they might be short, they might be strong, they might be weak. So again, you try to look at their strengths, cover up their weaknesses, and the same thing. So again, coaching is, getting the best out of that person with what they got.
Clearly, you learned everything you could from Bill and from Randy, because you became not just a coach, but the coach of the U.S. Olympic team, Paralympics 1996 in Atlanta, Georgia. Tell us about that experience as a team leader, as a coach, and just being there a couple of weeks after some of the most famous Olympic games, certainly in the past few decades.
Yeah. The Paralympics was held 2 weeks after the regular Olympics in Atlanta in 96. Mm-hmm. And on we all stayed on the Georgia Tech University dorm. We stayed right in the dorms, and we took there was another assistant coach from Florida. He was able-bodied, and then we had our men's team and our women's team. And so I think we did pretty good. We had in the men, we had silver in singles. We won the doubles.
Gold.
And we won the gold in doubles. And then the women won silver in doubles.
Women's doubles.
I'll tell you what's really neat about the men's gold medal match in double. Here we are, and we played at out away from Atlanta, a mountain,
Stone Mountain, is it? Stone Mountain? Yeah, it's up in Gwinnett County. Yeah, just east of the city. Yeah.
So it was built, and we'd have to get a bus, and we'd travel out there stay out there every day for the tournament. But anyway, so here we are, and here's our team in the middle of the doubles match, and they won. Australia was against Australia. They won a set. We won a set, and here we are in the third set tiebreaker.
Oh yes.
At 5-all.
Oh, yes.
And it started raining, and we kept waiting for a couple hours. Finally, they called the match off. We're going to play it tomorrow.
So 2 points to win the gold.
2 points for the whole thing. So we get out the next day out there early, and we warm up for like an hour and a half.
Yes, you want to get the sweat.
And get the sweat going, and get the and having the strategy, and what are we going to do, and thank God we won the next 2 points.
You really won 7-5 in the third set breaker.
Yeah.
Literally the next 2 points.
Next 2 points, and that was the whole
tremendous way.
Yeah, I mean, talk about pressure. Our guys, you could tell they were under a lot of pressure. Steve Welsh and Chip Parmalee.
Parmalee was the other.
And they were both fast in their chairs. I mean, they both could also walk. One had a hip problem, another had a motorcycle accident.
I see.
So because they had majority of the use of their body, both of them were super fast. And obviously that's part of the thing. So when you get one guy going to the net, and in doubles, we actually played like able-bodied. You play one to the net, one back. And if they lob him, the other guy's fast enough, he can get over there, and they switch and go back. So we actually kind of do rotations, and we had strategies for doubles too. We'd come around and you'd hit inside out to the opponent on their backhand side.
Makes sense.
And then you try to have one guy cheat in looking for that wounded duck coming to put it away.
That softball in the middle, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
So you're looking for that. But again, that was all strategy. But yeah, that was pressure. I mean, 5-all in the tiebreaker for the gold medal. And then the rain came. And I mean, it poured. We kept thinking, is it coming? They were looking at the radar and we're going to wait another hour. And finally, after about 2.5 hours, they said, look, it's not going to let up. We got to come back tomorrow. And they all go, you're kidding me. So that was something.
Coach, what did you put them through? Of course, an hour warm up before the match the next day, before the match, meaning the very short match. But what did you put them through mentally to affirm what they're going to do at night after the rains came?
Well, we talked about. I mean, there was a lot of points to think about, so we didn't go over all of them. But where were in the critical points? Where did we win the critical points? What did we do best? What did they not do? So again, we took our strength and practiced on that. Okay, when we get out, and I can't remember where it was. If we started serve, I can't remember on the serve where we were. But anyway, we felt, okay, if we serve, here's what we're going to do. And we already had, plan A, plan B, or if we were receiving, what we were going to do. So, it's like anything else. I mean, if on the receiving part of it, you want to get the ball back as deep as you can. Don't give them a softball and get it, hopefully, maybe to Adam right at. That's another strategy, too, with somebody in a wheelchair.
Yeah, to go right at the person.
We don't have lateral stability. If we want to go left or right, we actually have to turn 90 degrees and go push left or right straight. So sometimes the best shot is right at the person in the chair, and especially at their knees down towards their feet.
Low at the player.
Low at the player, right. Oh. So that's a strategy too. So, we just analyzed it and said, okay, let's pick about 8 shots we want to do, because in sudden death critical, where do we feel like we have the best chance of winning those points?
Tremendous, Wayne. Well, CB, any questions from the field, or should we move into the last phase of the second set before the third?
Well, we did have Elaine Evans, our buddy, Evans.
Love Lane.
Yeah, he's up in Salt Lake City, so he's wishing us well. Yeah, he's stuck in the airport.
He's flying from San Francisco down to Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, stuck in Salt Lake City in a snowstorm up there. So he says back at 2 a.m. So he says, glad you guys are on. So we do have Laner's out in Salt Lake watching us. But and then Rick Eckloff was coming and said, hey, coming in great. So
good.
Yeah, so nothing yet for anybody. But I had a question for Wayne.
Please, yes.
You talked about we were talking about some able-bodied people. They could walk. What are the rules as far as what constitutes a wheelchair player? Because I know I remember you telling me a long time ago, and there's also different levels of players as well, disabilities and things like that. So Adrian and I were able-bodied, obviously. Could we participate in wheelchair Olympics or wheelchair tennis, or what kind of?
Well, you'd have to at least have what they consider a 10% physical disability. I mean, and sometimes that was very minimal on some guys. I mean, we had one guy that he was a big, tall guy, but he had all his toes on one foot chopped off. Cut right off, right at the base of the toes. So being tall, his balance wasn't the best on that one foot. Well, he qualified to play wheelchair tennis if he wanted to. So, it's just whatever, a 10% disability. I mean, you could get a letter from the doctor, or the VA would do things, or whatever. You get a physical therapist or an occupational therapist to clarify why this doesn't let you compete at 100% as an able-bodied player. So that was the one criteria. Then as far as that, the only thing we did have a special division for quadriplegics. It means their neck, they get paralyzed and they don't have the full grip of their hands. They're limited, and a lot of them had to tape the racket to their hand, so they couldn't grip it, so it was actually taped. So they had a tough time because they usually had to put it more in a continental grip, because again they couldn't flip it. So the more in the continental grip, that way they were kind of in the middle for a forehand or a backhand.
Yeah, I bet they slice both sides if they're using that central. Yeah, they're not getting that top spin that you've been getting.
No. Yeah, they're mostly it's slice. But when you think about it, a good slice that stays low is a tough shot.
Of course.
You're hitting more of a defensive shot, not an offensive shot.
You're hitting up for sure, rather than wiping across it.
Yeah, so that's the quads, and then obviously you have the women in one division, men in the other. And then finally we had enough players, we started a senior division, and that's when the year you were turning 40, you can play in the senior division also.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And could you do both? I guess you could play in regular or 40s?
Oh, yeah. We played,
open and senior.
Singles, doubles, and then senior. It was doubles at that time because there really wasn't enough players to have like, and everybody have every 5 or 10 years. We just didn't have enough senior players. So it was you were a senior and you could be playing at 40 versus somebody at 65.
Yeah.
As long as you're over 40, you were a senior.
Right.
And we mainly played doubles because we didn't have the numbers. We only had a few singles tournaments for seniors. Couple times a year around the country. I remember, in fact, you remember in Chicago in the 80s where they had that horrible temperatures of 113 and people were dying? That's when we were playing in Chicago.
Unbelievable.
Tournament. In fact, this guy and I was playing a guy from Sweden, and we split tiebreakers. So here we're getting and they finally got so hot, they said, we're all going over to another facility and playing indoors. It was that brutal and that bad. I mean, it was it was, and then one time, I have to laugh, one time in Dallas, we were playing and we had our tournament in August and it was about 110 degrees. And we had some Canadians that came down to play and they were playing doubles and it was about 3:00 in the afternoon, about in the middle of the second set, they quit. They said, man, this is like being in hell. We're quitting. I mean, so it was more, more being, of the fittest than it was your tennis strokes. Could you survive the heat?
The heat, serious heat. Yeah. Hey, we've got a really interesting, great question from our good friend Bryce Everett from the Brothers on Tennis, which is a brilliant podcast. He kind of read my mind. I was going to ask you about a couple of the legends in the sport on the international level. I know Esther Vergeer won so many Grand Slams.
Oh, yeah, she holds the record. She won like 700 or 800 tournaments in a row.
Unreal.
And out of that, I think there was only 1 or 2 sets that she lost.
She dominated Steffi Graf style. She beat people 6-2, 6-1 all the time.
Oh, yeah. She dominated. It was like you go to a tournament and you see if she's on the draw, who's playing for second place.
Yes. Well, that's how we feel about the man Bryce was asking about, Dylan Alcott, the Australian who just retired after getting to the final of his home slam about a month ago in Melbourne. Tell us about his contributions to the sport.
Well, I'm not that familiar with him. I mean, it was more, seems like the guys from Australia was David Hall.
Oh, Hall, yeah.
He'll probably know David Hall, a double amputee, and man, he won 5 our U.S. Opens in a row.
Really?
He won 5 of them, and I think he won 7. Randy had 10. Total of 10 singles and doubles in that. So, David Hall was great. And then there was a gentleman from Germany, Kyle Shromeyer. He was a single amp, tall, blonde-haired kid, and he was phenomenal. He was probably had the most dominant serve. Most people in wheelchairs, since we're sitting low, we don't have a dominant serve because, you're low and you're trying to come up and over and down.
Yeah, you're kicking up,
You're losing a lot of that power, but he was pretty tall. I think, I know he played on the basketball team, but he was about 6'4". So even sitting in a wheelchair, he was serving down.
Yeah, a little bit.
So he probably had the most dominant serve I saw in wheelchair tennis because serving wasn't, our game, I said all along, our game was more, I think 70% return to serve than serve. None of us had a dominant serve.
Right.
I know every now and then in a tournament they would have a contest and, fast serve with a radar gun and all that stuff. And some of these guys would love to hit the ball really hard. They might get it up to 100 miles per hour, but it's not going over the net and coming down in the single.
Right.
It's not going to make that service box. But so an average serve, first serve, wheelchair tennis, if you get maybe in the 90, that's thing, and then most of your second serves are high 60s, 70s. So it's more placement than it was power.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And did you ever have a chance to hit with Esther? Were you ever on the court?
No, I went to plenty of tournaments. I saw her play and watched her game, and you could tell. She was phenomenal. She had all the strokes. She had the mobility. She played smart. She didn't fool around. If she could dominate you, she would dominate them. She would, and I've even seen her play against some guys, and, that's the old thing even now, had Serena Williams, if she was playing so-and-so, I would think realistically with respect to her being the greatest female tennis, you take the top 100 men, and I don't think she could be competitive against it. Same thing in wheelchair tennis. You took the top, 50 wheelchair tennis players. I don't think Esther could beat them. But as far as you start going down in the ranks, yes, she could definitely hold her own against the guys.
Yeah, what was Esther's disability? Do you recall?
I know she could stand up. She could stand up. I mean, and again, that's again, where's that 10%? She was minimally disabled. I know Ricky Moyer from the Netherlands. He was number one in the world for years and years. And he was a tall guy too, about 6'2". In fact, he won the gold medal over our Steve Welsh in Atlanta at the Paralympics. So he won the gold and Stevie won the silver. But he would always stand up before he gets ready to play to pull his shorts up, and he's kind of trying to intimidate his thing.
Right. Yeah.
And he could knock the hell out of the ball.
Big
and that's
hitter.
one of my claim to fame, that in 1 year when was it? Late mid-90s, I beat Ricky Moyer two times in that same year, and he was ranked number one in the world. I beat him in Florida 2 times, won at a tournament, and then when we used to play the Lipton, remember the Lipton in Miami?
Of course, Key Biscayne,
It was
right.
sponsored by Lipton. Well, they also had a wheelchair division. So I remember going to that, playing in that in about 3 years, and I ended up beating him that same year in there. But yeah, he was a heck of a player. He could hit that ball.
Yeah, so according to Wikipedia,
Yes.
she had some type of fluid on the brain when she was after swimming lessons, and it caused a bunch of other issues which left her paralyzed, basically, from the legs down. So that's at an early age of 6. So this started, and then by the time that
She had both legs and could stand, but they were paralyzed.
Right. Yeah, see, a lot of people can stand up. They just can't walk.
Right.
And so the advantage of that, too, when your disability comes into play is, do you have your trunk? Let's face it, if you have to lean out to hit a ball and you can pull back, you have your trunk to do it.
Yeah.
Where some of us, I'm paralyzed with my chest down. I have no trunk at all.
No
I had to be
trunk.
strapped in. So if I lean over, I have to take my hands and push back up.
Okay,
So
you can't just...
I'm losing a second or two from pushing my chair because I got to get back upright before I can start again. So, amputees could turn real quick, double amputees. There was a lot during our time. There's a lot of Vietnam veterans, and unfortunately, they were double amputees. They lost both their legs, and especially the ones they were above the knee. They could turn on a dime because they had no ballast down there. They had no weight as far as on their legs. So they could spin really quick and go back and forth. And so again, physical disability came into play. What you could do as far as chair movement, hitting the shot, because if you could get your trunk into it when you hit, then you can get more power. Just like able-bodied, they get it in from their legs and their hips and thighs, and they get that power in there. It isn't just arm strength.
Well, one of our loyal listeners, I know you know, Wayne, the tennis cowboy, David Good.
Oh, I love David.
Chiming in from Canton, Texas. Looking good, looking great, Wayne. Looking forward to seeing you on the court again sometime soon. When will that be? When's your next appearance on the court? The tennis cowboy wants to know.
What I'd like to do, I've been going through a couple issues. Unfortunately, I'm going through a physical issue in my wrist. I got bone on bone, and I got arthritis, and I've been told by a couple of doctors to have surgery, and I don't want to have surgery.
Right.
And it's like putting that on is really painful. But I think I'll be coming out this year for a couple of reasons. My little nephew, I got a 6-year-old nephew, and he wants to get involved into tennis. So I took him out when he was about 4 years old, when I was playing every Saturday, and he kind of liked it. We got his own racket, so he's been talking about taking him back out. So, I maybe go out there and maybe hit a little bit with him and some of the people. And like this one gal, she keeps telling me, Wayne, even if you just come out, we want your brain. We don't want your body.
Yeah. We want that great mind. You mentioned a wrist injury. I would imagine wheelchair tennis is really tough on the wrist. And earlier you talked about the shoulder a little bit. Tell us about how you've dealt with those problems.
Well, the shoulders, since playing 35 years of thing and 39 years of wheelchair tennis, I wore out my shoulders. I kept tearing rotator cuffs. And so make a long story short, I've had 8 shoulder surgeries, 5 on the right, 3 on the left, and my last 2 were shoulder replacements. So both my shoulders, I have artificial shoulders now.
Wow.
So because I just won, finally the orthopedic doctor said, Wayne, you've torn your rotator so much we got nothing to work with. He said I could use rotator cuffs from a corpse. He said, but I got to attach them to your body, and you're going to be back here in 2 years. We're going to start the process. He said, I recommend, total reverse shoulder replacements, which I loved it because it took away all the pain, and it gave me about 95% of my range of motion back.
Range. Okay, good.
Range. Yeah, you can. Yeah. I mean, for years I was trying to protect my left shoulder because I knew I had torn rotators. So I got to the point where I couldn't serve overhead. Even after the right shoulder replaced, my right shoulder I could do it, but I couldn't toss it up with my left arm. Oh, no. So I was serving underhanded. I was hitting, like throwing it up and hitting like top spin serves, or I was hitting underhand serves where they were kicking like a lefty with a lot of kick. And so I was doing that for the last couple of years. But now with both shoulders replaced, I mean, I think I can get back to serving overhead again.
Good stuff.
In fact, the only problem I was bitching at the doctor was I said, well, if you're going to replace my shoulders, why don't you give me those, the $6 million, shoulders that
bionic.
Bionic shoulders. Yeah. Let me have some of those.
So David Good, when you see him on the court, if Wayne is serving and you hear that sound, it's ballistic.
Yeah.
It's going to be big.
That's right. Yeah.
We have the technology. Well, CB, anything else in the second set?
No, I think that's...
last thing in the second for Wayne, what are your current projects and what do you see as the future in wheelchair tennis in general and what you are doing?
Well, as far as everyday life, I'm still working full-time. I sell medical equipment, so I do that. And then it seems like every weekend we got our 6-year-old nephew and our 3-year-old niece. So we've got them, which pretty much takes up a lot of our time, which my wife and I love, enjoy that. But I'd like to get back, get involved into tennis. I mean, I was doing it for almost 40 years, and it just gave a lot to me. And as far as recreation, competitive, travel, I mean, I couldn't have done all the traveling had it not been for wheelchair tennis. So. Like I said, I played in 26 states, so I love the travel part. But I'd like to get back and get with the people out on Saturdays. They're starting to get more and more, both adults and new kids, and start teaching them the sport. Because I really think if you get somebody out there 2 or 3 times, you can make them fall in love with the sport.
Yes,
it's just a sport for a lifetime, like they say. And so I'd like to be able to, since I always wanted to be a coach anyway, I like that part of it where I can teach them the game and the strokes and the strategies and all that about tennis.
Is there a place that they can find you? Just speaking of a center or a facility, or Wagon Wheel Tennis Center is where they play out on Saturdays once the season starts again.
Okay, it's in Coppell, Texas. Yes,
Coppell, Texas. Yeah, Wagon Wheel Tennis Center. Okay. And then we have the Dallas Wheelchair Tennis Club, which Carlos Turek, who was supposed to be here tonight, but he's out traveling.
That's right.
That he's the president, and they can get a hold of him, or I can give my phone number out, or whatever. I mean, we'd love to get a hold of more people and really teach them. And we might start doing like we used to years ago. We would go out to Scottish Rite Hospital and do a little exhibition. They got a tennis court there to get some of the disabled things. I keep telling them the best way to help our wheelchair tennis across the country is, along with the clubs that are already established, get involved with the VA, again, where a lot of the disabled veterans are coming. They're young, you're talking 18 to 25-year-old, minimally disabled, and get them out and enjoy the sport so we can really increase our national players pool.
What a difference you've made, not just as a coach, as a competitor, but now as such an ambassador for the game. And I want to remind folks at home, we didn't really get into all the details, but my goodness, gold and silver medals in the Atlanta Olympics, 7 silver balls, USTA Nationals, 8 gold balls, USTA Nationals. This man right here, Wayne Leavitt, amazing. So big applause for you, Wayne. Thank you. And we are, about to go to the third set. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm typing in some things
good.
where they can find Wayne. I just sent them put it out there on the Facebook, your email address. Hopefully you don't mind.
That's fine. That's right.
Thank you.
And then every Saturday morning at Wagon Wheel Tennis Center, and I'm going to type in Dallas Wheel. This is my second time.
Yes.
It's not very convivial tonight. That's our first one officially. Yeah, we've had two convivials.
Third one, really, yeah.
Oh man, I am tongue tied tonight. But I'm just going to put Dallas Wheelchair Club. Carlos Turek or Wayne, be happy to talk right there. So give me a couple of seconds.
And we'll have Carlos, your buddy, our good friend Carlos, back on in the summer.
Yes.
Since he was traveling tonight. And we are about to go to the third set. We'll have a great time with it. It is brought to you by Master Systems Court. That's our good friend Blair Descouret from right here in Dallas, Texas. He went to high school not too far from here. Went to college not too far from here.
He just stayed here.
He just hung out. He's such a pillar in the community. Pickleball, basketball, wheelchair tennis.
I'm sure that Wayne's probably played on a court that Blair's probably surfaced
all the time. I think we all have. Yeah,
Blair's great. He was actually commenting. I saw him on one of the feeds that said he had liked what we shared. So I've shared it already about 20 times probably already. So I was
digital media, digital marketing master here next to me, Craig Bell. Well done, bud.
Yeah, while we were talking there, that's what I'm doing off to the side. I'm not acting like I'm paying attention or not.
No, and I'm going to shift over and let Craig take over. There's going to be a great third set. Wayne Leavitt, everybody, so happy you're here.
Yes, we are. So we'll do 3 sets in the third segment here, and starting off, we always kind of talk about music. First band Wayne Leavitt saw in concert. First band.
Mamas and Papas in Dallas, Texas, at Moody Coliseum, SMU.
Mamas and Papas. No,
you got to remember, I'm an old guy. Yeah.
Wow.
The Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah.
That was in 1967. Wow.
California Dreamin'. Yeah. That's one of my favorite songs.
And how about Monday? Monday was always one of my faves, too.
Right. Did you ever see the Mamas and Papas in California?
I didn't, no. That would have been a dream, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, Mama Cass and all them. That was the original one.
Oh, man.
Yeah, John Phillips, I
bet you was that a sellout at Moody? Back then, was it?
I think it was, yeah. You had to get your tickets in advance, but that was a big...
Wow, that's
Moody holds about 10 back the old one 10,000.
That's it, something like that. Yeah, that's a great concert, man. I was sitting there going, I wouldn't have never thought Mamas and Papas. It hadn't come up. We've had a lot of bands, but that was not one that was the first band.
What an iconic first concert! Well done, Wayne.
Yeah. How old were you at the time? Were you in college?
Let's see.
You're probably 19 or so, or 18.
Yeah, probably. Well, I came to Dallas in '66. I was 18. As soon as I graduated from high school in Puerto Rico, we came to Dallas because the very next day, my sister and I were at SMU. We were in the summer school of SMU.
Just curious, was your dad stationed in Puerto Rico, or were you from Puerto Rico?
Well, when he was in the Navy years ago, we lived in New Jersey, and he wanted to sell his tax business. He said, "I'm tired of this snow and ice and cold. We're moving down." And so we moved down to Puerto Rico for 3 years. We were down there. And that's where I graduated from high school.
Were you in the San Juan area? What part of Puerto Rico?
San Juan, Atorrey, Rio Piedras, Trujillo Alto. I mean, in 3 years we moved around a little bit.
You probably didn't like the beach too much. I would imagine you didn't. You probably stayed indoors all the time, didn't you?
When I talk about that, I said, living in Puerto Rico at that time was like living in Hawaii. I mean, you were talking about 65 in the wintertime, and you could swim in the ocean over the Christmas vacations to the summertime of maybe 85 degrees, and the hotter, I like it anyway.
Yeah. I've been to Puerto Rico once, and it was really nice. I can see why people like living there. The scenery is pretty nice too, not just on the island.
On
the beaches, that is. I'll kind of give you the wink.
Puerto Rico.
If you could hear a band in concert, would you like to hear? What band would you like to hear in concert if you haven't heard somebody in concert?
Well, if I haven't heard them,
yeah.
Well, gosh, because I hardly get much into all the local bands and all that. I actually listen to a lot more Christian music. And one of our pastors, he has 2 other pastors, and they have their own Christian trio. They've had it for 25 years. They won Dove Awards, Phillips, Craig, and Dean. And so I've been to their concerts, and so as far as I probably listen to more Christian music. So as far as local ones, I mean, my favorite band of all times were the Beach Boys.
Ah, the Beach Boys, yes. Did you ever
That's
see
way
them?
back.
Did you ever see those guys in concert?
No, I never got to. Nope.
Yeah, the Beach Boys were great. Did you ever see the Beach Boys out in California?
No, I know Brian Wilson has toured a little bit, but I never saw the whole band.
Yeah, AJ used to live in California. He was out there with California Dreamin' Big, weren't you?
Oh, and great album, Pet Sounds. I think everybody loved that fantastic album.
I remember way back, I had some friends down in Houston, and we went and saw Lionel, Richie, and the Commodores.
Oh, the Commodores.
Wow, where'd you see them at? Did you see them at the Astrodome?
In Houston, I guess it was at the Summit at that time, or wherever the big was. I mean, that was pretty packed, too. So wherever the big, I think it was the Summit.
Probably the Summit, downtown. Probably where I think it's where Joel Osteen, didn't he buy
Joel Osteen now, the Rockets used to play there, and Joel Osteen owns it now. Yep.
And that's amazing. You start thinking about that. That's a pretty big church. You start thinking, hey, I just bought the Summit. Where the Rockets play. That's like 18,000 people. You're like, whoa, that's a big venue.
That's right.
All right. So I always like to ask this question because it kind of tells about the personality of the people we're talking with. If you were in a band, all right, and you might have been in a band, don't know that for sure, but
I don't play music.
Well, okay, so this will be good. All right. Would you want to be the lead singer, the piano player, lead guitarist, bass player, piano, drummer, glockenspiel player like me? I play a mean glockenspiel. I'm a world famous glockenspiel.
The best of the best.
Yeah, right. So where would Wayne Leavitt be in the band?
Probably a drummer. The drummer.
Really? Okay. Have you ever played the drums? Are you a drummer right now?
Not really. I just maybe take a couple pencils and tap on my desk or something like that, but nothing.
Yeah. The drum. Would you want to be a singer like Phil Collins? As a drummer? No. Just
I would rather just beat on the drums.
Yeah. Now, is there a drummer that you really like? Just asking. A question that maybe are you more of a trying to think of the drummers around here. Ringo Starr, maybe. He
was probably the most well known. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if I had to name some other drummers save my life, I'd be in trouble. So I don't.
I'm trying to sit there thinking of the Mamas and Papas who played the drums, or also in the Beach Boys, who was the drummer. Because Brian Wilson, I think he was the piano player, wasn't he?
Yeah, keyboardist and singing.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here because I've not been able to look up. I don't have my phone right next to me because AJ's abandoned me, so I can't look on. I can't look all this stuff up while I'm
letting
talking.
You be in the middle.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I know all the other drummers out there, but I don't think that. I'm trying to think who would be somebody that you'd be drumming like I said, like Phil Collins, Ringo Starr. Let's see, trying to think Neil Peart, who just passed away.
From Rush, Rest in Beats.
Yeah.
Certainly Charlie Watts is a huge
Charlie Watts was a big one from The Who, right. There's a bunch of...
Keith Moon from The Who.
Right.
Charlie from the Rolling Stones. Remarkable, yeah.
Right. Yeah, Alex.
And it looks like it's Dennis Wilson, brother of Brian, who played the Skins for the Beach Boys.
Right.
And I think there was a small time Ricky Fattar. According to our research department.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What about the Mamas and Papas? Was that I almost have it. Was it? Wasn't John Phillips?
No.
The other guy was in the band besides Mama Cass, and there's Hal
Blaine.
Yes. Right. Yeah,
research department coming through for us.
That's right. Yeah, he's off screen right now. The research department's off screen. So, all right. Now, second set. First paid job. What did Wayne Leavitt? Did you have a paper route in Puerto Rico? Were you throwing the San Juan Times?
My dad in Puerto Rico did real estate. Mm-hmm. So my paid job was me and my friends when he would say sell a house or buy a house. We'd go in there and do everything. We'd clean it up, paint it, do tar on the roof. We did landscaping. We did everything to get that thing so then he could either re-rent it or resell it. And so he had people moving in and out of different houses. So he kept us busy throughout the summer, that's for sure, doing all those jobs.
Well, I sound like you're a general contractor, right, when you're 15 years old.
I guess, yeah. Whatever. Yeah, I had a lot of friends at school said, hey, can I come help you? You got any openings to do the... So I would let them do, and I love to do the yard, mow the yards. I love the smell of grass. And I like to see, so at the end of the day, you see you got something done. You've accomplished something. I didn't like edging because they didn't have these edgers like they do now. We had to take a big machete and literally you're sitting there on your knees and you're cutting between the sidewalk and the thing with a machete to edge it. So that was the harder work.
Mowing grass was easier. Did you have to push more, or did you have the engines? Did you have
No, we had the engine mower and the one that even that would actually move on their own. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I remember my grandmother had a push mower, and I had to use the push mower when I was about 6
we
or 7.
didn't have any riding lawnmowers, that's for sure. They were all push. Yeah.
Favorite movie, TV shows? Do you like to watch movies, TVs, or what are you watching?
Well, my wife and I, we probably have watched probably Pretty Woman. We've probably watched that more than any movie that we've seen. Yeah. I should holler at her and get her in here. She can probably tell us something.
TV shows? Are you a big TV watcher or Netflix? Or?
Yeah, but I watch a lot of sports. In fact, like today, I was watching the tennis. I was watching the ladies down in Mexico, and I was watching the Davis Cup over the weekend against Colombia. So, and I'm a big Cowboy football fan and Dallas Maverick basketball, so I watch those a lot. I think when we're eating dinner, my wife and I, we watch Wheel of Fortune.
Hey, Wayne, who were you rooting for today? Osorio, this is down in Mexico, or Leila Annie Fernandez, the Canadian? Osorio, the Colombian.
That was a good match.
Well, I feel like I felt bad for the Colombians since we took them out in the Davis Cup.
We did. We got them in Reno, Nevada this weekend, didn't we?
Yep. So we're watching some of those matches, but yeah, and I just like somebody new every now and then, the underdog to win.
Yeah, breakthrough. Yep. Nothing wrong with that. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Are you a breakfast person, lunch person, dinner person?
Breakfast. I can eat breakfast for dinner too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I like scrambled eggs and crispy bacon and sausage and
all the good stuff, right?
Yep, all the healthy stuff. Yeah, right.
So speaking of food, so if you had a party, and let's say that maybe it's breakfast, or maybe it could be dinner. We call it a soiree up in Oklahoma, but we're having a party, and you could invite some dinner guests, and we know AJ and I would be invited.
We'd love to.
Yeah. Is there, like, say, at Mount Rushmore, or is there 3 or 4 people that you would like to invite? And they could be anybody from any time from Adam and Eve all the way forward. They could be alive. They could be people who might have lived, or maybe who didn't live. Maybe we had some people from The Hobbit last. Was it?
That's right.
Yeah, Marsh. Was it Marsh, or was it? Who was the one that? It was. Calenti Denifer. She said that she brought in some fictional
people from Middle Earth.
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to have to learn some Elvish on that conversation.
Yeah. So who are some dinner guests that you might, or a party or breakfast? You might serve breakfast at this dinner party.
Well, not to get too spiritual or religious on you, I'd like to invite Jesus and let him say grace.
Sure. Yeah, he'd be great. Yeah, we've had him on a few times.
He's come on the show. He's been mentioned, a
few times. He'd be interesting to talk to, that's for sure.
There you go. Maybe one of the astronauts that's been to the moon.
Oh,
and just to experience that. You talk about one of the movies. Yeah, I probably watched Apollo 13. I don't know how many times, that successful disaster that they made it back safe. So I've watched that one probably 15 times, and then I love the old Clint Eastwood westerns.
There you go. Now you're talking. Which one do you like the best?
Fistful of Dollars, maybe, or Pale Rider, I like them all.
Yeah. Few dollars more.
That's another
Good, Bad,
classic.
and Ugly.
How about Josie Wales?
Josie
which
Wales.
is on the
Josie
later
Wales,
end.
right.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites in the later career.
Right. Yeah, Clint Eastwood. We've had him on. Haven't had like a Neil Armstrong on. That he'd be an interesting guy. Wasn't he the first person to hit the moon? I think.
Right. He was the first one to step on the moon. Right.
Yeah, and then Apollo 13, man, I don't know how those guys made it back. I remember watching that movie many times as well, and he goes, okay, here's what we got, and let's figure this out. And it's like, what? That's all we had to work with, and he had to get those guys back. Man, that, if I was in space and you were working on just a little box full of stuff that you could have to get some people back from the moon, boy, that was it was really an accomplishment from NASA to get those guys back alive. Yeah. I don't know if Neil and those guys wanted to know what those guys were. I'm sure they were probably really worried that they weren't going to make it back at that point. Yeah. So, but anybody else? What about another person? You got anybody else in mind that might come to this party that we're serving scrambled eggs and crispy bacon?
Well, let's see. I don't know. There's some probably. I don't know about politicians. They kind of all irritate me a little bit but I don't know. I'd probably like a Dr. DeBakey that did the heart transplant. Yeah, somebody like that that did a lot for mankind. Something like that. A well-known doctor that saved lives. Then just sometimes just some good. What happened?
Oh, you're still there? We're still there. Uh-oh.
Well, I'm not seeing you guys. I don't know what.
Uh-oh.
What happened?
We're seeing you. I can still see you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine.
Keep going.
Anyway, yeah, maybe a local policeman hero that saved somebody, or maybe a EMT that rescued somebody or whatever. And
There's some good people, eh? Yeah, I like all those. That's interesting. We've never had a couple of those people mentioned, so yeah, good choices. East Coast, West Coast. Are you an East Coast guy or West Coast guy?
Well, I was an East Coast. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Lived in New Jersey for 15 years, but that's too hectic there. And then you got out in California, you got to worry about the traffic, the high prices, the taxes, and the earthquakes. So I like being in the middle of the country. I don't really have partial to East Coast or West Coast.
Yeah, well, you kind of gave it away also a little bit. You're probably a beach guy a little bit, aren't you?
The Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
so Myrtle's Beach, I'm going to say East Coast guy and maybe a beach guy. Are you a beach guy or guy?
The beach. I love the beach, because of Puerto Rico. But that's the reason I really love tennis. You're outside in the fresh air and the heat and the sun. And, when I was younger, the good thing about the sun, it would bleach my hair blonde again.
That's right.
Did you put the lemon juice on and
No, I didn't even have to do that.
You didn't have to do that? Oh, okay. No. Sunrise, sunset. Sunrise or sunset? Are you a morning person or?
No, I'm a night person.
All right, there we go. First person we've had in a while that's been a night owl like me. Yeah. Are you a night owl? So I'm starting to get my sea legs again about 9:30 at night.
Evenings, late night.
Yeah, I used to tell people don't call. You can call me up to at least midnight or a little bit after. And of course now lately it's been down to 11 o'clock. Now it's getting down to 10 o'clock. So I know I'm getting older.
Wayne, I feel it. 10 is the new midnight now.
Really?
At my age.
Oh, man.
I like getting up early, and by 10 or 11, I'm ready.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite season? Are you a summer person, winter, spring, fall?
No, I like either spring or fall. I like probably fall the best because that means it's starting football season.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Cowboys, I guess your favorite?
Yeah.
College? What about college? Are you a college football person as well or more professional?
Probably more professional as far as college. I mean, I kind of like to root for some of the underdogs. I get tired of Alabama and some of the Clemson and Georgia and all that stuff. So, I'd like to see some of the other mid colleges get in there.
So do you think that the playoff system will they expand that out? What are your thoughts on it?
I hope so. Just like the basketball, we're getting ready for March Madness, and that's what 60 it was 65 now it's like 68. They got a couple of feet in.
Yeah, the play-ins, right?
And I'd like to at least see in the football college about 12 teams at least.
Yeah, I think 12 would probably be pretty good. That it's nice to offer some other opportunities for people. At least we've got something going. There for a long time that mythical title that nobody was going to win. That deal unless you were really.
Yeah, it was just a few guys that think this team's better than that team or something.
Yep. Favorite holiday? What's your favorite holiday?
Either Thanksgiving or Christmas. Jeez. I like them both. I think Thanksgiving, because of family, you're thankful for your family and health and things like that. And Christmas, I like that because I like to bless people with gifts, especially if the people don't have a whole lot and whatever.
Yeah.
So I like helping the lesser, the underdog or something.
Yeah. What do you like to do in your spare time? When you have some spare time, what do you like to do?
Well, probably just veg out and watch a sporting event on TV.
Nothing wrong with that. Typical guy answer.
Yeah.
All right, let's wind it back to the third segment of the third set, and this is more about tennis. We're going to bring it back to a little tennis here. What's your racket of choice? What's your racket of choice today? I know you said Prince. When we met, you used Prince rackets. Prince is not really around that much anymore. What are you using these days?
Gosh, I got two different Prince rackets, and I'm trying to remember the last one. Probably the first and the last one that I had to buy about, 4 or 5 years ago. That's the first time I think I bought a racket in 30 years. God, what was it? You're going to have to refresh my memory. What's some of the ones in the last 4 or 5 years?
Babolat, Head, Yonex.
No. It was always Prince. I'm just trying to think
Prince.
of the model.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Now you're catching me off guard here because I was the Prince rep, and I'm trying to think what was recently, maybe.
But I always try to find the lightest and a bigger head on it.
Okay. Yeah.
Since so much of ours is, I'm trying to protect it with all my shoulder problems, so I'm trying to make it light. And so, because a lot of times, not only you're swinging with your shoulder, but you're using your wrist a lot too, which is kind of a bad thing. But so anything that's light and yet powerful. And I can't think of it because it was about 5 years ago when I bought my only racket.
Well, we'll figure it out here in a second. I'll keep as we're asking some more questions. Hopefully, I'll come up with it right there.
Yeah, if you said it, I'd know. If you said it, I go, yeah, that's it.
It wasn't the Shark, the Rebel. I'm trying to think what those were back maybe 10 years ago. From the Prince side. I'll think of it here in a second. Indoor tennis or outdoor tennis?
Outdoor. Yeah, I like being out in the sun, I even like the strategy of playing in the elements. With the wind, against the wind. The only time I didn't like playing outdoor if the wind was circulating. It's not. If it came steady from one end of the court or the other, you can strategize. Hitting lobs versus drop shots or whatever. But when the wind's swirling, that's kind of a real pain. But yeah, and I just see the ball better outdoors than I do indoor.
What's your favorite surface outside? Is it hard court?
Hard court. Oh yeah.
Have you ever played on grass?
One time, just, for about a couple hours, and I didn't like it because it just was hard to get going and, kind of slide a little bit. If you go to turn, you have a tendency of sliding a little bit sideways because you don't get as good traction. And the ball stays lower.
Yeah. I played on grass once, and I'm like, that didn't,
Right. And clay, it just, you get so dirty. I mean, when you get done playing match on clay, your shorts are covered because the wheels, as they come around, they deposit clay on the side of your shorts and you get all over your socks and whatever. It's almost like you got to throw all that stuff away.
Yeah.
It's just hard court. Yeah. But also, you got different levels of hard court. You could have a fast hard court or you could have a lot of grit in there where it's a slow hard court.
Do you prefer one or the other?
Yeah, I do prefer the fast because I feel like the slow, usually my opponents were all a lot faster than I was, so they can get to most of the balls, and it's hard to hit a ball past them on a thing. If it's a fast court, and since I hit a flat ball, it has a tendency of hitting and sliding and staying low, so I could pass people easier with a slick fast court.
Most embarrassing moment in the great game? Have you had a moment where you kind of like, ooh, okay? I've had a few of those out there.
Well, there was two I can think of. One time, Randy Snow and I were playing doubles as partners in a tournament down in San Antonio, and we both went for the ball. Basically, We hit the ball together at the same time. We hit each other's chairs, literally flipped over. I flipped one way, he flipped another, and we're on the ground. We're looking our head up, and sure enough, we hit the winner, and we're high-fiving laying on the court down there. And then my other one was at the U.S. Open out in California. I was playing doubles with Jay Rollator, my buddy here from Dallas area. And for somehow I went back. They hit like a lob going over my head. So I kept backing up, and I leaned back, ended up hitting the ball, but I flipped over sort of backwards and I got caught on the fence. So I'm hollering to Jay, cover it. I can't help you. I mean, I was literally caught on the fence, kind of half on my back that I couldn't get back on my wheels.
That's embarrassing and athletic and funny. And I couldn't imagine playing Leavitt and Snow,
right?
And you can't read that ball because they both hit it.
And you probably both called for it, right? That was mine.
Oh, yeah, that's why we ran. You know, it's like I didn't want to leave it to him. He didn't want to leave it to me. So we both kind of was like coming down the middle. So we both went for it. And it was almost like, you know, when you go to hit the ball and one racket hits the other racket, you both hit the ball, so to speak. That's what happened.
That's pretty funny.
What a duo, though, Leavitt and Snow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
What's your favorite tournament? What's your favorite tournament? I'm interested to hear this.
In wheelchair?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
My favorite tournament was actually the U.S. The U.S. Open was probably my second favorite. Was the Florida Open down in Boca Raton, Florida. Bruce Carr and his wife put on a tournament for years on end. It was probably the biggest invitational tournament. It probably had about 250 players from 20 countries, and it usually was the first tournament of the year, like in the beginning of April.
Interesting.
So it was always great over the winter to work out, go to the gym twice a week, work out and get strong and get ready and try to play as much tennis as you can before April, because most of the weather was pretty bad and you didn't have access to many indoor courts. I mean, Brookhaven every now and then, something like that. But so, you know, you tried to jam as much from about March in as you could to the beginning of April.
What about just regular tournaments? Like, have you been to any of the tournaments? Have you been to Wimbledon or the French Open, or have you traveled to the U.S.
I've
Open?
only been to the U.S. Open in New York twice.
Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite, just regular professional tournament, I would say, not non-wheelchair?
Yeah, just regular able-bodied, rather.
Well, it probably would be the U.S. Open, then I would say, yeah. Because that's one of the big four.
Yep.
So...
Do you like to watch tennis on TV?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you watch it as a regular, just let your mind go? Or do you have to sit there and analyze like AJ does that?
Coach.
You have to analyze. In fact, I learned a long time ago, if I'm playing in a tournament, I can only watch so many other matches because I'm playing every point and strategy. Yeah. And it's like then you almost got to be careful to get mental fatigue. By the time you're ready to play your own match, it's like you're worn out.
You're worn out and you're frazzled a little bit because you've been working so hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's right. So yeah.
Who's your favorite tennis player or players or men?
Well, I mean, it's easy to pick the front runners. I respect Federer and Nadal. Because they respect the game and they really give 100% all the time. So, those two for sure. And in fact, speaking of Roger Federer, when I was at Waco for the Hall of Fame thing, my friend, she's from, which country it was. But anyway, she had some friends come up from Latin America. Make a long story short, they had a tournament the year before that Roger Federer was there, and he had signed and autographed several of their jerseys, and they gave me one of those jerseys. In fact, we just took it a couple of weeks ago to a gentleman that's put it in a frame with a couple of my pictures, a couple of awards, and in fact, I just got a text. He says your shirt is ready, and it was autographed by Roger Federer.
Tremendous.
I'm sure Rafael Nadal, you would have given Wayne some memorabilia, wouldn't you?
Well, Wayne, no, I would do anything for Wayne. No, I'm gonna sign his wheels on his chair. No, I'm gonna sign his hat, whatever he wants. No, Wayne is too much coolness. I gotta help him. No, plus he mentioned Roger. I want to be as good as Roger one day. No,
right. No.
Well, you know what he is? He's got 21. He's got Roger beat.
That's unbelievable. And maybe he gets 22 in 2 months.
I wouldn't count him out.
3 months.
3 months.
French, yeah.
I would not count the man out. I would say he's still there.
Djokovic's another one I respect. He really gives it all. But I'm afraid I don't know this deal with his vaccination status. He may not be playing in many tournaments. He may not have the chance to keep up with Federer and Nadal.
It's true. They just announced that France will let him in for the French Open, but we don't know about the others. And interesting tie-in, there was that clip of Djokovic being, of course, able-bodied times 10, right? Yeah. He's amazing. He tried wheelchair tennis. He wanted to see what it was like, and he was not amazing at it the first few times, but he was fascinated by that figure-8 movement and, the things that he's ridiculous at, like sliding on a hard court. You're not going to do that in the wheelchair. You're going to move like this and play with your mind. So I wouldn't put it past him to try it, and he would actually be pretty good, but that was kind of interesting, Novak.
Yeah, I think Novak would like to meet Wayne, wouldn't you, Novak?
Oh, there's no question. Both on the court, off the court, in the chair, and out of the chair, it would be a great honor to give my heart to all 4 sides of the stadium in honor of Wayne. No, it's going to be great. I cannot wait to meet him. So thank you for mentioning me, Wayne.
Yeah, there you go.
You didn't know he had so much talent, or lack thereof, around, did you?
Really. You were talking about a lot of times we play in what we call an up and down tournament, where somebody in a wheelchair plays with an able-bodied person.
Oh yeah,
so we call it up and down. And I know over the years I got to play with Martina Navratilova over in Fort Worth when we were doing an exhibition years and years ago. And then one time a buddy and I that were also sponsored by the wheelchair manufacturer, Invacare, we got to go to Washington, D.C. and play with a bunch of politicians. And we played with a couple of people real high up in the Navy, an admiral and a couple other people and a bunch of politicians. So that was kind of a fun thing, an exhibition in Washington, D.C. with a bunch of politicians.
That is awesome. Good. I so much respect for the military guys, but when the politicians were on, did you have to let some of the air down because all the hot air of the wheelchair?
Really, you gotta watch them keeping score. Though.
I was going to ask. I was going to say, hey, did they try to call some fast ones on you? Like that ball was 5 feet in. That wasn't out.
Yeah, there you go.
Always bargaining. Always pushing it.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any superstitions or rituals? Did you?
No.
Not really.
No superstitions. I only had one strategy, was to win the last point of the match.
Right on.
Now that's a coach right there.
That's a very pragmatic, intelligent coach who communicates effectively. That was awesome. Great advice.
All right, last question, and then we'll let you go because we appreciate your time here.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, Nick Smith, our buddy Nick Smith, wanted me to ask this question also, too. And I said I'll ask it in the third set. If you could wave the magic wand, we always like to say you're the commissioner of the great game. And this can be both, let's say, able-bodied and wheelchair tennis. Is there any change or changes that you would make to either one, able-bodied tennis or wheelchair tennis, that you would do as the commissioner? Or would you leave it alone? Do you like it the way it is?
I do like where you got the instant replay where they can challenge the line calls or something like that. I do like the technology, and it's there, so we might as well take advantage of it. And I liked when they changed. I think in college, don't they have to play a let serve? Because I think there was a lot of guys that were, when they got ace, they'd call a let. Oh, it hit the net, and it really didn't, or something like that. So Didn't they change the rule?
They did. It was, I think it was 96 or 97. They went to playing the Lets only in Division I men's tennis. College tennis.
Yeah, AJ used to do that.
The only thing you talk about politicians are hypocritical. I saw it on today's match is when you're in a rally and the ball hits the net and just pops over and they win the point. They always got to hold up their hand, being apologetic, and inside they're going, "Yeah," because that was in a tiebreaker. I saw that happen today.
Yeah, there's a fist pump here, but an apology right there at the same time.
Exactly. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm really not. I got the point.
Right.
So. But other than that, I'd like to see it maybe go to a 10-point tiebreaker instead of the 7-point. And I'm glad they finally did away with, and I wish on all the other majors. Remember, what was the one that Isner played 68?
Oh, 70 to 68, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Nicolas Mahou in Wimbledon.
Yep.
Yeah, and they couldn't, and then they were worthless after that. So I would really like to see at the end of, if it's a 5-setter, that at the end of the 5-set they do maybe just a 10-point tiebreaker. Yeah. So you got an end other than keep playing it out. I think they've already done that on one of the tournaments, haven't they?
At Wimbledon, they're doing it at 12 all in the 5th.
Right.
And it is a 10-pointer, or is it?
Might be.
I think it's a 10.
I think it might be.
And then at the Australian Open, they're doing 10s at 6 all.
Yes.
In the 5th.
Yep.
At U.S. Open, it's just the normal 7, first to 7.
First 7.
What we used to call the 12-point breaker,
right.
And they call it a standard 7 now. And at the French, I don't think
we've
seen it yet. They still playing it out, but they're talking. I feel like I've read that they are listening to Wayne Leavitt, and they're trying to do something at the very end of the
There's
French.
some negotiations going on.
Yeah, some powerful stuff.
Well, it isn't. Because it may not be the final. It could be, throughout the tournament. And it really puts that player at a huge disadvantage for the next match.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, that was a 3-day match. I remember that.
11 point something hours, but 3 days.
Yeah. It was way.
And the next match he was in, I think he lost in straight sets.
He wasn't even holding serve. Maybe twice a set he was holding. Yeah. Well, for John Isner not to hold serve, something's up.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything on the wheelchair side? Would you change anything, or do you like the way it's
Well,
going right
I always said as I got older, I think we ought to, after you get past 50, you ought to get 3 bounces.
Not just 2, 3 bounces.
Or maybe
three bounces, or if it starts rolling, you still get to hit it.
There you go.
Rolling.
I call that jungle tennis out here on the courts. Yeah, we play it until it stops. Once it starts rolling.
Rolling, coach calls it.
Right there. But otherwise, you're in play, so you can just keep it going. I call it jungle tennis.
So on the end of your racket, you have a 9-iron putter thing, and
a little blade.
And you kind of scoop it back up and put it back in play.
Yeah. Now that'd be fun to do. I was always interested in seeing how good I could be in a wheelchair. I doubt I would be very good at all. I remember just watching these folks. I remember over at LB Houston, I think a time or two I went over. I think we did a clinic or two over at LB Houston with Andrea Raines and the group over there one time in about 95 or 6, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I was really fascinated to see people in wheelchairs and just kind of maneuvering around. I was like, wow, that's really interesting.
It is.
Well, believe it or not, in some of the quad divisions, they actually play in power chairs.
In the power chair.
Yeah, we had a guy, Nick, from Wichita, Kansas, #1 in the world for years and years, and he played from a power chair, and it was amazing to watch him and how he served. He had like polio, and he had a shoe within the toe. It was like a dimple, and he put the ball there, and he would take his leg and kick it up in the air and serve it.
And
really? Wow.
Crazy.
That's Steph Bojic doesn't have anything on him.
That's right.
There's a trick shot artist that AJ and I follow on Instagram.
He's the master of trick shots.
Yes.
The guy's crazy.
Yeah, he's really fascinating. Some stuff you're like, wow, where did he come up with that? So I don't know if he could even do that probably off his foot.
That's crazy.
Yeah, wow. Well, Wayne, we appreciate your time. We've kept you for an hour and a half tonight, so thank you very much for the convivial, friendly conversation that we've had. It's been great. We really appreciate appreciate your time and your talent, all you've done for the great game, and continue to do for the great game. We know you're not stopping right now.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me. And like my wife says, she says, Wayne, you can always talk about yourself for hours. So,
Wayne, seriously though, you're such a legend and such an inspiration, and we are very honored to have you on. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Well, once again, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, or if they want to learn more about wheelchair tennis. I know David Good says he'll let me borrow his chair, so
nice.
I'll roll around with you guys at some point. But once again, tell everybody on the podcast.
Well, you can go to Dallas Wheelchair Tennis Club. That's one. You can call my cell 214-668-1256, or you could email me wayne.leavitt@nsm-seating.com. Any which way, if you're interested, and I'd love to have people come out and get involved, or if you know somebody that could be a good candidate, we'd love to get a racket in their hand.
That's great. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to our next time. We've had some Carlos and the gang out here at the club.
Right.
We were trying to have another wheelchair tennis club outing, but it didn't go through last year. But I'd love to have you guys come out anytime on the indoor courts here at Bentry. So consider that. We'll get together here shortly and talk about that. How's that?
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate
so awesome.
It. Well,
thank you, Wayne.
Well, thanks again,
All
Wayne.
right.
There's
Thanks,
your
guys.
newly
right.
inductee of the Texas Tennis Hall of Fame, Wayne Leavitt. Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well,
all right, bye. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Wayne. Thank you. CB, what a great offer you got to have those guys out, and what a great guest we just had. Wayne's awesome.
Wayne's awesome. Yeah, he's a real legend in our Texas tennis area. Not just Texas tennis, but nationally, internationally.
General.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So
right.
He's a great guest. So, well, should we? I guess roll with the podcast.
Love
here?
it.
All right, we'll do a little exit music here with James Scott Campbell.
Well, thanks as always for joining us, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Season 1, Episode 111 of At the Net Podcast. Join us next week as we'll be talking with the General. I call him the General.
General Patton.
Bill Patton.
Brain Sport Bill. Used to be known as Visual Bill.
I'm going to call him the General.
The General. General Patton.
Also join us Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock as we do a little ATNP on Instagram, right?
We call it Tennis Shorts. It's a short version of our show. Typically no guests, just Craig and me.
Yep.
So join us. We get to find out what's in the tennis shorts of Craig Bell. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 on the East Coast, 6 on the West, 7 in the Hills.
And lastly, be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and other social media outlets. We're around on all the important sites the kids find popular.
All the kids love it.
And be sure to tell a friend or friends, because we'd like to be net heads, and maybe we could get a hat, a chapeau.
Chapeau like ours, or I don't know, t-shirt, sweatshirt. We got more in the pipeline. Bags. We have cool bags.
Sure. So let us know. We'd love to see more net heads out there. We're building our following again after we got kicked off a while back. So
help us build it.
Yes.
Share, like, subscribe. If you like this content, share it and tell your friends.
Yep. So, all right, everybody. That's the tennis news as it seems to us. Good night.